Your guy, a political commentator, is on the phone right now, Sasha.
Yeah, honey, he made history in 2006. He was only 22 when he defeated the man had been in office for 26 years. I'm talking about Bakari Sellers. They said that he's one of the most influential African Americans, and he's got a new book out called My Vanishing Country. We got Bakari Sellers. Hey, Bakari. Lot going on, babe. A lot going on right now in this country.
Too much.
And how appropriate, and within the last couple of weeks, that your book is coming out about racism. You know, I had a chance to flip through some of the pages. My Vanishing Country. Can you tell us a little bit about the book?
Yeah, no one ever wants their book to come out during the middle of a pandemic.
Right.
It's usually not the best time. And I would have never guessed that, we would have these disproportionate rates of Black folk dying. And we would have Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and the young man, Mr. Barbecue Man, is in Louisville, who was murdered just last night by law enforcement. And so, this book, it talks about the pain and trauma of being Black in this country. It starts from my father being shot in the Orangeburg Massacre by law enforcement, February 8th, 1968, where state troopers fired and 3 young men, Henry Smith, Samuel Hammond, and Delano Middleton, were killed, and another 28 were wounded. They actually arrested my father that night as well.
Wow.
They deemed him to be an outside agitator, and my father went to prison. He was charged, tried, and convicted of rioting. He became the first and only one-man riot in the history of this country. All 9 officers who fired shots into the group of students were tried. They were all found not guilty. And so I talk about that injustice and how that's the most important day of my life, and talk about the highs of being the youngest Black elected official in the country, and the lows of having one of my good friends, Clemente Pinckney, who was the pastor at Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston, gunned down along with 8 others. And, I think that the tragedy in life lies in the fact that my father is 75 and I'm 35.
Right.
And we have many of the same shared experiences. And we just have to break this cycle that, I remind people that the moment we're in right now is not just about George Floyd. It's not just about Ahmaud. It's not just about Breonna. But the moment we're in now is about centuries of systemic injustice and institutionalized racism in this country. And we're at a point where we cannot wait. We have to have solutions. And I'm tired of people telling our people to get out the street, and they want peace without saying justice, or they want us to just wait until November, when at the rate they're going now, that's probably 6 or 7 more dead Black bodies between now and November if we just wait.
Yeah. When we look at the riots like Chicago riots, Watts riots, McDuffie riots, and the list of riots go on and on and on. I can only speak for myself and how I felt. And I understand what they feel. And there's a part of me that's saying, go up some more, because there's so many years of anger. I want you to tell us how you feel when we come back. Rick and Sasha with George Wilborn talking to Bakari Sellers. It's Rick and Sasha with George Wilborn. We're talking to political commentator Bakari Sellers. He has a book coming out called My Vanishing Country. How appropriate for that. All right, so we're going to this protest, and a lot of people are angry, man. How do you feel? Because I know how I feel, man.
So I get to the point where I completely understand the riots. Like, I can't say that I want people to be burning things down. I can't say that I want people to be throwing bricks through windows, because it gives people an easy out in this discussion. And I don't want them to have an easy out. I want them to be able to have to confront this dead on.
Right.
And also, I don't want, a lot of I feel bad for friends of mine who own buildings and properties and shoe stores, et cetera, that they work diligently for to now have to rebuild. Right.
Yeah.
But I also, if I condemn the riots, which I can, but I also have to condemn the underlying conditions that led people to believe that they had to riot and loot. Right. I have to be able to condemn the fact that people are going home and drinking dirty water, that their kids are going to school that are falling apart and their heating and air don't work, that their hospitals are closed down so they don't have access to quality care. In my book, I talk about the fact that my wife nearly died giving birth to our twins last year. She lost 7 units of blood. Most people her size only have 9. In the first 36 hours of her life, she was in ICU while my twins were being born. I gave, those college prayers that you give, like, dear God, if you get me out of this, when you drink too much Parmesan the night before or something like that. Like, dear God, get me out of this. And the reason being is because Black women are 4 times more likely to die during childbirth than their white counterparts, all because of the implicit biases we have in our healthcare delivery system. So it's hard for me to just simply say, don't riot if I'm not willing to address the other issues. And far too long in this country, nobody's addressed the systemic issues we have that are plaguing us.
Right. Bakari, what is your father, who is 75? What is your father saying?
Well, my father's at home with his feet up, and he's saying, now is your time. My father got started in the movement in 55 because of the death of Emmett Till. Right. That's what sparked his outrage. And, he raised us he said we could be anything in the world as long as we were change agents. That was the goal for my father's children. And so I see my father every day, and I realize that his eyes don't pop like they used to from shedding so many tears, and his shoulders aren't as upright as they once were from carrying the burdens of a generation. And when I see him, I realize that I have to be very intentional and purposeful in my quest for justice, because I just want my kids to be free one day. They're 17 months old, and I just want them to be free. And so I have to work extremely hard to make that happen. And he gives us tips and advice. He called me the other day and said, one thing he wanted me to make sure was my friends who were protesting. He said, make sure you don't protest at night. He said, because, people do. That's and right. Law enforcement do things under the cover of darkness they wouldn't otherwise do during the day. And he said the best disinfectant is always a little sunlight. And so he always gives me little old snick pieces of wisdom to help me organize and protest.
Well, Bakari, you continue to practice law in Columbia, South Carolina. We want everyone to pick up your new book, My Vanishing Country. How do we follow you, and how do we get this book, love?
You can get this book from anywhere, any independent bookstore you want to, or you can just do one click on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. You can follow me on Bakari_Sellers on Twitter, or Bakari Sellers. And let me just say thank you guys for just being a pillar of the community and having these difficult conversations and uplifting voices. I mean, now is the time where we don't just talk about culture and we don't just, just have a good time. Now is the time that shows like yours are so important. And I just want to thank you for stepping up to the plate.
Thank you. Hey, do you listen to us in your hometown, Bakari?
You know what? I actually do listen to you all, mostly digital more than anything else, because everybody has to listen to Sasha.
Oh, yay! Thank you. Kiss your wife and hug those beautiful twins, okay?
I will. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Everybody get up.